You know, it's funny that I literally did an October out of your comfort zone October, and yet this is kind of the month that I've done almost more out of my comfort zone. But hey, whatever works. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be doing my wrap up for the month of November, which was a really interesting month because I did do a lot of kind of different stuff. And I think a lot of it was just that I read a lot of really heavy epic fantasy over the last couple of months. October, I did do some more unique and different kind of things too, but I did most of those earlier. I was working on binging the Last King of Ostenard series, which I did finish in time. I also had done The Darkness Comes Before and some Thomas Covenant, and so I just had a lot of stuff overall, reading the really big heavy stuff. And so I ended up just feeling like a different change. So I started off the month of November with doing some sci-fi and really just trying to find something that would fit. So first I did Not Till We Are Lost by Dennis E. Taylor, which is the new Bobaverse book. And it is, I'm actually, because this says Audible Original, I'm not sure if that means that this is actually not even coming out physically anymore, but these are one of those things where like the series is okay. I've enjoyed it enough. I'll keep listening to them as long as they go, but it's 100% because I love the way that Ray Porter narrates them. Ray Porter is one of my favorite narrators, and so it's just generally, I like this. I did like this a bit more than Heaven's River, the last one. It was solid, but it was just really entertaining and just kind of like a just nice, easy, fun thing. And then I was trying to find something else to give me the same like hard sci-fi feel, because despite being done a bit of comedy, they're still pretty hard sci-fi, and I really enjoy those. And so I ended up looking for more there, but I had a good time with that one for sure. And then I ended up doing a review copy that I had, The Artificial Structure, formerly known as The Moon, by I.K. Stokebeck. I still don't know how to say that. I should have asked. Which was also very different and kind of even for like the sci-fi stuff, kind of just unique and different. And I actually really enjoyed this. I did do a review talking about it, had some fun with the title and the thumbnail. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and it just it had some interesting ideas that were timely, but also played around with some classic tropes that you see a lot in sci-fi. And so presented at first, I was like, oh no, it seems like it's doing that kind of dystopian sci-fi thing that you've seen a million times. Goes in some really different directions though, and I had a really great time with that one as well. And that kind of just helped with the different kind of sci-fi thing. I did also do the first book of Swords, which this is an omnibus version, but I did the first book of Swords by Fred Saberhagen, which is 80s fantasy in its most 80s fantasy form, which not much of a surprise. I really enjoyed this. This also was just kind of a nice change because it's very light, fast-paced, action-packed, a lot going on. I am most certainly going to be continuing that series. That was a patron pick by Jennifer. Had picked that as the high-tier patron perk of getting to pick whatever book for me to read, and I quite enjoyed it. I'm most certainly going to be continuing. And Fred Saberhagen apparently has not only is there a lot of books in the book of Swords, it's a whole ongoing series. He's also got like a Berserker series and that he's known for. So a lot from Fred Saberhagen. So definitely an author that I will be checking out more of as well, because I had a really great time with. I then did, this almost doesn't count, but I started The Summer Tree by Guy Gavriel on audio, and I only did this because at the time I didn't have an audiobook going, and a buddy of mine, Jake, was going to try and read this. Did not end up being for him because it's very classic fantasy, and he's not much for classic fantasy, so I ended up also just putting it down because I just was more so in the mood for kind of different stuff at the time. I wasn't crazy about the audio, but I feel like that's been a recurring theme where I prefer to physically read Guy Gavriel. More on that later. And so I just ended up putting it down for now because it wasn't something I had been planning to pick up, but we were going to buddy read. And so that was just not for now. I fully intend to come back to this trilogy, but just, not right now. And so then I decided I wanted to try to get to some review copies as well, since I had done Artificial Structure, formerly known as The Moon. So then I picked up Blood of the Lion by C.D. McKenna. And this one, which really nice, beautiful looking book here. This one is kind of a, like dark / maybe like grimdark kind of thing, and very character focused. And I read about 100 pages of this one, and I just really was not feeling it. It felt like it bridged between, some of it was really good, but other bits, the writing style just did not work for me. It's a lot of character monologuing and just characters kind of talking. So it felt very, very telling, not showing in a lot of ways. And I also just felt like we were really focusing on these characters, which I get it's character driven for sure. But I'm like, I want something to happen, or I want, more world versus just focusing on the characters. So I put that down for now. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be a firm DNF. I might try to pick that back up, but at the time it was not working. And so I ended up putting it down and moving on to something different. I then did pick up Xiang, Empire Assault, which I have physical copies of this, and the Swords Ain't Coming, but I did a digital copy for this one, and I really enjoyed this. This is also just a different kind of fantasy, and when I talked about Darien, the first book, the Empire of Salt, is the trilogy, and Darien was super different, and it seems like this series is just Con Eagledon playing around with all of the stuff that he has wanted to over the years when he's writing historical fiction, but he can do it in fantasy because it's just such an oddball mix of different elements, tropes, different things. This one has some kind of like Frankenstein stuff in it. It has just some super different stuff, and then kind of pulls in later on a lot of the stuff from the first book. I just had a lot of fun with this. I found myself enjoying it way more than I thought I would, because the first book I liked, but I had a lot of issues with as well. This one, though, I had a really fantastic time with, and so I'm very excited to get to Sword Saint. I will be hopefully getting to Sword Saint in December. They're not long books, so I should be able to fit it in without too much trouble. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. This has been a kind of a surprise series. Works very well for the kind of something different as well that I was in the mood for with that one. So then I picked up another review copy, which is The Hunt on the Island of Esmer by Justin A.W. Blair. And this one I am actually, that's not quite right, man, because I've been also reading this on ebook because it's on Kindle Unlimited. So I'm over halfway through with this one. And this, I will say, I know it's not much to look at here with it. I will put up the ebook copy or cover, which is slightly different, the same base thing but a little bit different looking, and so this is one of those ones where can't judge a book by its cover, because not looking the best design wise, but this is probably, I mean, not even probably, this is one of the better review copies I've ever been sent. I am really enjoying this. It's also a little bit different for me because it's the author had said when he originally sent it, it's inspired by The Black Company with a bit of Malazan and like George R. R. Martin in there. And this is very, very reminiscent of The Black Company in kind of some of the way of this storytelling. In some ways, definitely gives me a feel of Black Company plus a little bit of Bridge Burners from Malazan, but also just is doing some really unique things. And the storytelling, the way it's being done, is just super effective. And so I'm really, really enjoying this one. I'm hoping to finish it. It's a pretty decently long book, but I'm hoping to finish this here one soon. This is one of 4 things that I'm reading right now that I still have ongoing that we'll talk about. And so I've been kind of slowly going through this and other things this month. But yeah, really, really enjoying that one so far. One of the other things that I had picked up that just I wasn't really feeling was Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. So this I was doing on audio, which the audio is not great for this, but I was just looking for something. I am reading multiple things either physically or on ebook copies, and so I didn't really have anything for audio, and I was still trying to find something hard sci-fi kind of thing to do on audio, and so I picked this one up. I actually had found it, it's included on Audible, and then somebody had recommended it, and it started really strong, and I thought it was gonna work a little bit better, and this is more of a not for now / soft DNF, I think, but I got about halfway through and I just wasn't super invested in it. I think partially because this is more of a focus on the characters and like the political situation on Mars. It's a group of 100 people go to Mars and they're kind of establishing a colony there. And then the start of it takes place a little bit more advanced in the future where there's some crazy stuff happening, but it's more character focused, and I was looking for more like hard sci-fi focus, so it just was not what I was in the mood for, and it just was, yeah, so I ended up putting this down because I'm like, I'm halfway through, and it's pretty long, and so I just did not feel like finishing it at the time, so maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't, but because of that, I ended up needing something else again for audio, and so I threw on John Carter in A Princess of Mars, which is the first of the Barsoom books by Edgar Rice Burroughs, same author author who published the Tarzan books. And yeah, this is from like 1912, so it's over a bit over 100 years old. And was kind of a surprise because this was actually it's narrated by Scott Brick. The version I did, I like Scott Brick. I recently found him with Thomas Covenant. I was doing some audio there, and I quite liked his narration style. But it's just like it was kind of surprising. There's a lot of, the action, the romance, all of the kind of the pulpy stuff, but it just some of the elements here I felt like actually aged a lot better than you would think for it being as old as it is. And it just it was fun and engaging, and I had a really good time with this. And I've been a bit hit or miss when you get to the older sci-fi type of stuff. And so I really wasn't sure what to expect, but I quite enjoyed this. It has its issues. It's definitely older pulp, where stuff just sort of happens and you just can't question it too much. But I had a better time than I might have expected with this one, so I'll be curious to kind of throw in the next couple of books at least and see how I feel about those as well. But it was a fun time. And then I'm doing The Dirty Streets of Heaven by Tad Williams, which I actually just got a physical copy of this and the whole trilogy, Bobby Dollar, after the interview I did with Tad Williams, which was a blast. Because just talking to him, I was curious. It sounds like this is one where he just kind of was a little bit freer, because of the format. He was able to just kind of throw in all kinds of different stuff. And the copy I got, though, ended up being like an old beat-up library copy that I got rid of, and so I have another one that's on the way. So we'll just show this here. But yeah, it's this is very different. I had not planned to get to this originally because I know this one is different, but this is just it's so incredibly different from other Tad Williams that I've read. But I feel like knowing what it is going in, I compare this to, it's kind of like a little bit of Good Place or Good Omens mixed with Dresden, because it's sort of a noir fantasy. It's about an angel who's like an advocate who's a lawyer on the side of heaven for souls, and that's kind of the setup. So there's a lot of this heaven-hell interaction type of thing, but all on the real world, except this is quite raunchy, and those elements definitely are not normally for me. I didn't really like Dresden all that much with it, so I'm still not quite sure how I'm going to feel with this, but overall I've been having a fun time with it. I'm well over halfway through this one right now. I switched and ended up doing some of it on audio because the physical copy was just crap, and I didn't want to keep waiting for the new one to come. So this is another one that I have ongoing right now that I'll be getting to. But yeah, just super different, and I'm curious. I know this might not be the one that ends up being for me, but I was just really curious to read it after talking to Tad. So there it is. We had it on there as well. And then other thing I have ongoing right now, Lord of Emperors by Guy Gavriel Kay, which is book 2 in the Sarantine Mosaic. And I've been really taking my time with this too. I've been doing about a chapter a day and reading it physically because, as I mentioned, I found that I really just prefer to read Guy Gavriel Kay physically. He's an author that I enjoy more without doing audio, because I've done some audio. I don't think done all audio for any of his stuff because I have most of them physically. But this one I've just been doing physical, and I am just past finished with part 1. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm not quite halfway through here, but we're getting there. And I'm enjoying this a lot more than Sailing to Sarantium, which I was a bit more middling on. It still has some of the things that I didn't like about Sailing to Sarantium in it, but it's Guy Gavriel Kay, and he does such a great job of setting up a lot of the stuff. The opening of this one was really, really good with the new character that was set up there. And it's just, I'm enjoying this one more for sure. There's still some of that stuff, but I feel like my expectations were a lot more managed at this point as well, because I knew what to expect. And so the elements that I didn't like that much about the first one, I know they're here, so it was probably a little bit better. And then finally, the other thing that I have going on, which I'm maybe 20% or so into, if that, Dark Bloom by Molly McCaw, which this book is not for me, although it's pretty good so far. And I knew it probably wasn't going to be, but I saw this author on Bald and Balding's I guess not podcast, but they're kind of interview series they do, Book and a Beverage and all that. I will link to Bald and Balding. Great channel. They have so many author interviews that they're doing very regularly, plus other content. I was recently on their channel for a creation. I can't even talk. Creature creation segment, which was a lot of fun. They do a ton of stuff and do not have a lot of subscribers. It's so definitely check it out. It's Mike Molman and Ro Bushy, and there's they're great. They do have a ton of great content, so check them out. But anyway, so Dark Bloom. So they had this author on And the title, which apparently is actually named after a metalcore song, and then she had commented that there's actually lots of like little Easter eggs for metalcore and some other bands in there. And I realized that I actually already had a copy of this book on ebook that I don't remember when I actually got, but so I'm like, you know what, let's give it a shot. So like I said, this book is not for me. It's not my normal thing. It's kind of a it's horror with also like very deeply character focused. It's a character with a very traumatic past, then in this sort of post-apocalyptic horror type of world now. But the writing is really good so far, and so I'm having a good time so far with it, as much as you can with this type of book, because again, a lot of trauma in there. But it's yeah, I again, my expectations were in the right place because I know this is not my normal sort of read. And so maybe I might even be able to get my wife to read this one with it because it's a little bit more her thing than my thing, I think. But we'll see. So that one is also, I've been just kind of taking my time reading a bit here and there and just switching between. And I've really been enjoying switching because everything I'm reading is very different right now. And so it's been a good time just sort of picking up whichever book sounds good at the moment. And they're generally all pretty engaged in with everything too. And a lot of good stuff going on here with it. So it's yeah, having a good time with it, and so I will be working to finish all of those here soon, since November is over, and then figuring out what I'm going to read in December, which I still don't really fully know, barring a couple of things I know I want to get to, but we will see there. That is really it for this one, though. So let me know your thoughts on any of these, as well as if you had any standouts in November, or any of those kind of things. Like maybe if you had some stuff that was surprises, because I had a lot of surprises in here for me. But definitely let me know that in the comments. Always love to hear from you. And then, of course, give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books. Whether these books, other books, really anything at all, it's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. And, of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.